Wise words indeed. Our hope is that we have given you memories over the last 3 or 4 years, or in some cases longer, that will last a lifetime. And when you, our graduates, walk across the stage today to morph into graduates before our very eyes, don't be surprised if the sound of applause acknowledging your wonderful achievements is drowned out by the pounding of beating hearts from those who will be visibly beaming with pride at your family and friends this evening goes without saying. Supporters of the university, yes, absolutely. But also, very importantly, this group will consist of those members of the academic community, many of who are sitting behind me, who have shared your journey over a period of years, and whose engagement with you has shaped your very humanism, as you have theirs, as if jointly moulding each other like clay. For the future, we are committed to welcoming you back to the university to further develop the relationship we have with you as lifelong learners. You are now fully fledged members of the ACU tribe, and we hope you think of us when you once again are ready to seek out further academic study or professional development, or even if you simply want to give back to a university whose value proposition you believe in. But for today, indeed tonight, it is right and proper that we take time to celebrate your achievements in fine style. You will be pleased to know that as of today, you have joined an advantaged group. At a time in Australia's history when most jobs created require a university qualification, and most graduate incomes, on average, are at least twice that of non-graduates. That said, my hope is that you will see the completion of your ACU degree as a milestone that has imbued you with something more than just a brighter career plan. Its point of difference must be its distinctively strong humanistic quality that draws from the past and forges your future impact on your chosen profession and on society more generally. Men and women of the Australian Catholic University community, welcome to your ACU Brisbane graduation ceremony for 2014.
I now ask Professor Margot Hillel, Chair of Academic Board and Member of Senate, to read the citation for the candidate for an honorary degree.
Born in 1929 in Mitchell, Queensland, Auntie Ruth Hegarty is an Aboriginal elder and author who has lived her life pursuing her interests and surrounding herself with that she treasures most, her family, her community, and her stories. When she was still an infant, Ruth and her mother moved to the Cherbourg settlement as the Depression had left her grandfather out of work. There, she and her mother, Ruby, were separated from the rest of the family and confined to dormitory accommodation. When Ruth was only 4, she was also separated from Ruby and allowed only intermittent contact. Ruth lived in the dormitory until she was 14 and was then sent out to work. After years in domestic service, Auntie Ruth married local boy Joe Hegarty Jr., and together they raised a large family and began a journey that would take them from Cherbourg to Brisbane. Always a prolific writer, Auntie Ruth set out to document her life as a dormitory girl so her family would understand what she'd endured in her childhood. Her efforts won the 1998 David Unayapon Literary Award, and the manuscript was published as the book Is That You, Ruthie? In 2003, Auntie Ruth published the sequel, Bittersweet Journey, recounting the story of her early married life, dealings with the Department of Native Affairs, her work in the community, and determination to give her children a better life. In 2011, Auntie Ruth felt compelled to write the story of her good friend, the late Jack Moffat, who also grew up in Cherbourg, in the boys' dormitory. Her first fiction novel, Suffer the Children, is due to be released shortly. Auntie Ruth is not only an author, but a respected leader and tireless advocate against the injustices endured by herself and her people. She's been involved in the Apology and Stolen Wages campaigns, is a member of the government's Indigenous Advisory Board, and was a recipient of the 2009 Queensland Greats Awards. Now in her 85th year, Auntie Ruth continues her work in the community through her beloved Binambi Baramba cultural enrichment camps, established in 1997 to provide young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children with a cultural experience that strengthens their identity and place in community. Auntie Ruth is a particularly strong advocate for education, understanding only too well that a good education will often lead to a good life, something she aspires to for all her people. She has generously accepted requests from Australian Catholic University to share her cultural knowledge, her vast body of written work, and her life experiences. She has officiated at special events and participated in cultural awareness training for staff. Pro-Chancellor, I request that you bestow on Auntie Ruth Hegarty the highest honour of Australian Catholic University, Doctor of the University honoris causa, in recognition of her contributions to Australian literature, Indigenous education and community leadership.
By the authority as Pro-Chancellor, vested in me by the Senate of the University, I hereby admit Auntie Ruth Hegarty to the degree of Doctor of the University, honoris causa. Dr. Auntie Ruth Hegarty will now address us.
Thank you so much for this. As I sat down there, I felt that I had died and gone to heaven. So many wonderful faces looking up at me. It's such a privilege and an honour to be here tonight. As the other speaker said, I am an 85-year-old great-great-grandmother and mother, a Gungari woman, and somebody who really appreciates life. For me, life is wonderful, and I appreciate it very much. I consider it tonight a great honour to be here and to share in this very auspicious occasion, and it is. But I don't dare compare myself with the graduates and the hard work for which they are being rewarded. They, the young people that are graduating young and old, have put their dreams into action, and we know that nothing in the world can take the place of this action of persistence and dedication. I grew up in a world where no one was rewarded. Cherbourg Aboriginal Settlement, in the girls' dormitory, as the other speaker said, taken off my mother at 4.5 years and learned to live without her. And it was a time of loneliness, a time of sadness. It was a time of growing up and trying to make yourself into a very useful human being. There were no certificates for excellence, no encouragement, no recognition, and very limited education. I was one of the kids that wanted to learn more, to do more, and to acquire more. And I got the name of Show Off. And so, with such a name, it makes you stand back a little when you're showing off, trying to do something that you felt that you needed to do. Some people would become brainwashed by this mantra, but I was determined to take my limited education and add to that by reading everything that I could lay my hands on. The girls' dormitory had no books. We were not given books at all. There were no libraries. And so anything that I could pick up, I would read, because I needed words. Words were important to me, and if I heard a new word, I would try and use that in a sentence to confuse my other friends in the dormitory. I love Bryce Courtney, Australia's best-selling author, and he said, man's greatest gift is the gift of speech. And the gift of words is the gift of imagination. Well, I had all of that. I had all of it, but at times I was never allowed to use it. As a child in dormitory, wanting to talk got me into more trouble than I care to name. And hence, my first book was called Is That You, Ruthie? 60 girls there, and they seemed to know somehow or another that it was Ruthie that was doing all the talking, and it was Ruthie that got punished. Later, my late husband, Joe, who knew of my passion of writing and wanting to write, although at times he too would call me a show-off. It was only after his death in 1986 that I began to write. My stories began, and the words that were hidden for so long in this heart began to surface. I bought a thesaurus. I found that was the most important book that I could have in my house. And that first story that came pouring out of me was a story of my life in Cherbourg from 1929, which was titled, as I said, Is That You, Ruthie? The book was not written for publication. I was never going to publish that. Because after my husband died, my children's father, I thought, what do these kids know about me? I've been their mother all these years, and I'm not sure they know anything about me. I'd never mentioned the dormitory life to them. And I thought, if I wrote something, in case God decided to take me out of this place, at least they would know something about me. It was my friend Tom Blake, who's always there when I need him, who read that manuscript that I had written. And Tom said, this is good enough for publication. Well, I wasn't sure about that, because I thought that if I published that, my friend Peggy Martin says, it's got to be warts and all, Ruth, if you're writing a book. And warts and all was what I was afraid of, because I wasn't the best person in the world to be writing a book about my life. But I wrote it. And it did win the David Yonaivan Award, because no other book had been written about the life of dormitory girls at Cherbourg. And I felt that this book, although written about myself, as I gave them the manuscript to read, the girls said, this is me. And so they all recognized in that book their own stories. I was very happy about that. And then I followed it up much later with the title sequel, My Bittersweet Journey. And I'm not sure if anyone would understand. You'd have to be a dormitory girl in Cherbourg to understand what it is like for, I guess, an Aboriginal woman to marry an Aboriginal man that lived in the camp. Our lives were completely changed. Completely changed. Because we were separated. We were separated from the camp, from our families, separated from our relatives, our grannies, our grandfathers. And we were kept in isolation. And so going into the camp and trying to live there was a terrible time. It was terrible not only for me, but for my young husband, who couldn't understand me as well. So then my friend Jack Moffat, who grew up in the boys' home, asked me if I would write his story. That was a challenge because I knew very little about Jack. He was younger than I, and we weren't allowed to go near the boys anyhow, so you didn't know what the boys were doing. And when Jack began to tell me his story, I said, "This is wonderful, Jack. I will write it." But then again, Jack didn't like the warts and all thing. He said, "No, I can't write that. I've got a woman sitting here, look, listening to all of this." I said, "I won't write it. I won't write it unless we do the warts and all thing," which we did. And it was on the day that Jack died, just before he died, I took the manuscript to him, and he read it, and he was quite pleased with it, and so was his wife. The next title one, of course, is Suffer the Children, which I won't tell you too much about, but I'm hoping that I will do some script writing after this. So this 85-year-old isn't going to sit down and do nothing. I've already started writing poetry. I began school at 4.5 years of age, and it was unaware of the consequences that it would be for my mother and myself. Maybe you won't understand, but the mothers were kept in a separate part of this big home that we lived in, and the children were in the other side. And I could look through the latticed windows, latticed door, and I could see her there. She was a beautiful woman, but she would never look at me. She had her back turned to me all the time. Because she said to me, when we talked about all of this later when I was writing, that I was just one of those children who were too anxious to do things. I followed other kids to school and was sent back home. I wanted to be educated. And my uncle would take me home and say, "Ruby, keep this kid home. She's a nuisance." My mother lost me that day I started school. She lost me. That was the policy of the day. As soon as a child stopped feeding off their mother's breasts, most of the mothers would keep their children on the breast till 5 years of age. But as Mum said, I wouldn't do it. It was a sad time for us both. No amount of tears would bring her back to me. We would never live together again. I am a child of the stolen generation. I see my sister sitting down there, Nell, who was just a couple of years behind me. We are the last of those girls that are still alive. I am the oldest. All had died premature deaths. We would have liked them to be all here tonight, and I know what they'll say. "Oh, it's you, Ruthie, again." I didn't hate school because of this. Made up for everything. I loved learning and being with my dormitory sisters. I became more attached to them then. We were all deprived of our mother's love. Poetry was my greatest love, not writing, but reciting. I had to hear my own voice. I loved reciting poetry. And just standing in front of a class, reciting poetry gave me the greatest thrill. I loved spelling, and I loved finding meanings to words, and not having a dictionary meant that whatever our headmaster put on the board, we had to memorize. We had the old slates in those days, so you rubbed it off by the end of the day. I couldn't help but put here my favourite poem. was the Christmas bushfire. And he said, you've got to learn this. Everybody had to. There was a competition of sorts. And I was determined, as always, to learn this poem. And the only way that I could do it was to set it to music. I think you might know the tune of the Colonel Bogey March. That became a good one. And I started to sing that poem on Christmas time when months of drought had parched the western creek. A bushfire started in the north and travelled south for weeks. And I got the whole 5 verses. I could remember them all. All my attempts to be an individual met with disapproval. However, it made me more determined to be me. At 14 years of age, it was a bittersweet time, as my school days were over. Anyone turning 14 in the Cherbourg school was immediately pulled out. It didn't matter what time of the year your birthday was in, which month. The minute you turned 14, you were brought out of school and sent out to work on some of the farms and cattle stations. My birthday was in July. I didn't complete grade 4. That upset me terribly. I was pulled out of school and sent to a job in Jandowie as a housemaid. Heartbroken at 14, 13 and a half, you might say. Unhappy that my life could change like this. I was in that dormitory, Nell and myself, with the 2 babies that started in the dormitory. That was my life. That became my home. And now I was being pulled out. I could do nothing else. But I found comfort in books. My love of reading kept me going. Where I was working, I'd have to be up at 5 in the morning to light the boiler, to light the fire in the stove, to do all of these sorts of things. And when I did that, I would lay down amongst all the old dirty clothes and read my book. The mistress discovered me reading instead of working, and I was reprimanded. A letter was sent to the Department of Native Affairs to report on this girl's bad behaviour. I became known as insolent and bad-tempered and sent immediately back to the mission, only to be sent out again. This went on for 2 years, backwards and forwards. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I wasn't meant to be a servant. I knew I wasn't meant for housework. I'm still not meant for housework. But it had to happen. So the Director of Native Affairs had some thoughts about this. So he said that it might be more fruitful for Ruth if she is sent back to the mission and she became a school monitress. That's the, what do they call them there? Teacher aides. I was 16 years of age. You know, I was so excited about this. But I could get back to the school and become a monitress. But the authorities of the mission ignored this, and they sent me to Charters Towers, 2 days travel by train. The old coal train that we used to travel on that took maybe 3 days before you got to your destination. I felt, and they gave me 6 shillings for the whole journey. This was to buy cups of tea and a pie every time the train stopped. I was so hungry when I got to Townsville. I felt I never had the opportunity at that time to fulfill any dreams and was disempowered to stop the government's involvement in my life. I make it my, I suppose, effort or my fight against government and injustice. I have done it so often. They had been very unjust to those of us, boys and girls, who lived in these homes. Yes, we lived in a home, controlled by other people in authority. It was a double whammy. We were dictated to by bells. Bells for meals, bells to go to bed, bells to get up to school. It happened every day. I was surprised as I was doing some research into one of my books that it was in 1934 that the then governor, Sir Leslie Wilson, stated that after a visit to Cherbourg, he said, "It seems far more important to me that Aboriginal children should be instructed in the practical work of servants and labourers. All that is needed is that they should learn to read, to write, and to do simple arithmetics." How could you lose out of that when I was paid 2 shillings and 6pence a week? I didn't need simple arithmetics to tell me how many pennies there was in 2 shillings and 6pence. He said that is all that should be required of them. And you wonder why I push education and our people's need to become an educated people. I would say that Sir Leslie was wrong, absolutely wrong. He set in motion ideas and policies that were used by government to destroy the lives of generations of our people whose dreams and aspirations went to the grave with them. That statement robbed us of not only further education, but our rights to choose equality and freedom. What a dreadful condemnation on people who each had dreams to escape the tentacles of government rules and regulations and to live their own lives. I often wonder where my love of learning and reading may have taken me. Had I been given the opportunity to finish school and to go on to higher learning and work in my chosen field. I am and was always an independent, free-thinking person. I should say here that I spent many times in our small jailhouse at Cherbourg because of my wanting to speak out against what was happening to us there in the dormitory. We had our own jailhouse. During my 85 years, I have seen and experienced many things that have challenged me, excited me, saddened me, and held me in bewilderment. My Christian faith has been a constant in my life, and through this I have kept going and have embraced my journey. I hold no bitterness about my past, as it is this past that has made me the person that I am today. You cannot imagine how deeply touched I am tonight, and I address you for this, Chancellor, to receive your university's highest honour, an honorary doctorate in literacy, Aboriginal politics and leadership, as it means so much to me, a fourth-grade student from the Cherbourg School who was denied the education she so desperately desired. Thank you so much for giving me my educational award. It now completes my greatest dream. I feel that my life, well, is almost complete. I have several other things I need to do, as I have achieved everything else that I have desired. To my family, whom I love, and my friends, thank you. Love you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a few things before we finally applaud Auntie Ruth again. Firstly, you thanked us for this honour, but we thank you for accepting it. You have spoken to us this evening in a number of ways. The talk was interesting, of course, but it was moving. It was from the heart. It gave us a real-life, first-hand understanding of what you, so many of your people, our brothers, have been through. So thank you for that. But finally, it was also, I've done many graduations like this, and so far, this has been the most important. And that has been the most important speech that I've heard. Thank you. Would you all join with me in thanking Auntie Ruth is not going to stay with us. She will join her family and they will.
Would all the candidates for academic awards please stand?
By the authority as Pro-Chancellor, vested in me by the Senate of the University, I hereby admit you to the awards for which you are qualified as listed in the programme.
Congratulations, graduates. You can now be seated.
The Doctor of Education degree at this university importantly attests excellence in scholarship and is in the established international tradition. A thesis based on the candidate's research and intended as a major contribution to the advancement of knowledge is submitted for consideration by 2 examiners, both of whom are usually external to the university. Award of the degree is decided by the academic board of the university. Robin Ann Sharp has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled Mandated Curriculum Changes, Perspectives of Teachers. The study was completed under the supervision of Dr. Janelle Young and Dr. Joy Kennedy, both of the Faculty of Education and Arts. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Education, Dr. Robin Ann Sharp. The Doctor of Philosophy degree at this university importantly attests excellence in scholarship and is in the established international tradition. A thesis based on the candidate's research and intended as a major contribution to the advancement of knowledge is submitted for consideration by 2 examiners, both of whom are usually external to the university. Award of the degree is decided by the academic board of the university. Brent Trevor Downs has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled From Life to Page to Stage, Exploring Artistry, Storytelling and Community with Marjorie and Michael Ford. The study was completed under the supervision of Dr. Tracy Sanders of the Faculty of Education and Arts. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Brent Trevor Downs. Jennifer Margaret Elvery has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled Understanding and Implementing the Marist Charism from the Middle, the Experience of Middle Leaders in a Marist School. The study was completed under the supervision of Associate Professor Dennis McLaughlin of the Faculty of Education and Arts. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Jennifer Margaret Elvery. Jenna Kathleen Gillette-Swan has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled Time to Tell, the Complexity of Wellbeing from the Perspective of Tweens. The study was completed under the supervision of Dr. Jonathan Sargent and Professor Deborah Harcourt, both of the Faculty of Education and Arts. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Jenna Kathleen Gillette-Swan. Catherine Mary Simpson has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled The Use of Musical Elements to Influence the Learning of Receptive Communication Skills in Children with Autism. The study was completed under the supervision of Dr. Janine Lamb of the Faculty of Education and Arts and Professor Deb Keane of Griffith University. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Catherine Mary Simpson. Connor Francis Finn has completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled An Exploration of How Identity Leaders Perceive and Institutionalise the Edmund Rice Charism. The study was completed under the supervision of Associate Professor Dennis McLaughlin of the Faculty of Education and Arts. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy Education, Dr. Connor Francis Finn. Michael Brian Anthony McCarthy has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled An Exploration of the Parental Choice of School by Rural and Remote Parents. The study was completed under the supervision of Professor Elizabeth Warren of the Faculty of Education and Arts and Professor Nerida White, Director of the Centre of Indigenous Education and Research. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy Education, Dr. Michael Brian Anthony McCarthy. Andrea O'Brien has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled From Whence Shall They Come? Attracting the New Generation of School Leaders. The study was completed under the supervision of Associate Professor Dennis McLaughlin of the Faculty of Education and Arts. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy Education, Dr. Andrea O'Brien. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the Graduate Certificate in Higher Education, Carmel Ann Turner. Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Master of Education, Zoe Ruth Perry. For the award of Master of Education, Arts Education, Susan Norell Chapman. For the award of Master of Educational Leadership, Graham John Akers. Tanya Gay Crooks. Shirley Ann James Shari. Darren Wayne Carney. Amanda Marie Kidd. Jeffrey Peter McManus. Kristen Margaret Smith. Jenna Webb. Patrick John Webster. For the award of Master of Religious Education, Maureen Therese Cullop. Linda Darlene Marr. Bradley Sydney May. For the award of Master of Teaching Secondary, Graduate Certificate, Religious Education, Julia Marie Guppy. For the award of Graduate Diploma in Education Secondary, Graduate Certificate in Religious Education, Andrew Ian Bone. Christina Louise Cassidy. Martin Allen Harmon. Mark Allen Toohey. Candice Elizabeth Walsh. For the award of Graduate Diploma in Education Secondary, Alexander Campbell Borland. Scott Robert Casey. Michelle Renee Comalati. Isaac Robert Kennedy. Anne-Marie McCartney. Rebecca Deanne McCann. For the award of Postgraduate Certificate in Educational System Leadership, Brett Francis Rangira. For the award of Bachelor of Arts, Vanessa Joy Caudry. Stephanie Francis. Elizabeth Alexandra Howard. Elizabeth Marion McKenna. For the award of Bachelor of Arts, Creative Arts and Culture, Carol Bettina Bennett. Christina Aled Ford. Demi Michelle Gregor. Jacqueline Grace McDonald. Jordan Tian Patterson. For the award of Bachelor of Education, Early Childhood and Primary and the 2013 Faculty of Education Medal, Mattia Therese Koidri Mataya. For the award of Bachelor of Education, Early Childhood and Primary, Katie Aarons. Jake James Barnes. Laura Nicole Burgess. Kirsty Margaret Butkus. Samantha Naomi Alessandra Carr. Sarah Bronwyn Chesney. Ella Madeline Connell. Anastasia May Conomus. Natalie Lisa Cooper. Alicia Joanne Cripps. Jacqueline Shea Doyle. Jessica Ann Drubs. Amy Louise Ayres. Emily Claire Gill. Emily K. Hartshorn. Kathleen Margaret Horgood. Jordan Anna Hay. Samantha Kate Hind. Lisa Kathleen Holmes. Olivia Amy Irwin. Vanessa Lauren Key. Alyssa Elizabeth Marinucci. Rachel Louise McCann. Portia Shakara Monahan. Emily Pigelosa. Caitlin Jean Purdy. Rhiannon Mary Seymour. Peter Regina Street. Adam William Tarletta. Amanda Louise Taylor. Carolyn Taylor. Alyssa Sarah Thomas. Corey May Tripconney. Zhang Yang. Paris Letitia Zacharika. For the award of Bachelor of Education Primary, Catherine Mary Louise Allen. Adam Timothy Beadle. Elise Nicole Beecham. Samantha Josephine Bell. Stuart James Bankston. Christina Marie Benson. Kay Marie Bentley. Corey Stephen Braithwaite. Sarah Elizabeth Brigden. Morgan Lee Buchanan. Carolyn Louise Butterfield. Natalie Renee Carl. Megan Frances Cassidy. Urissa Ann Shinia. Deanna Louise Sitterlin. Amelia Christine Coleman. Erin Louise Cochran. Monique Patria Dixon. Jessica Kathleen Duncan. Alana Hilary Flanagan. Rhiannon Marie Flynn. Hayley Marie Freeman. Ellen Marie Gall. Olivia Nina Gerrick. Dasha Marie Gracie. Anthony Peter Graham. Zoe Louise Graham. Elise Ann Groves. Belinda Catherine Haynes. Dominique Hall. Joseph Paul Harris. Courtney Ann Heath. Malaya Jade Hurden. Yana Hipratian. Leanne Margaret Jenkins. Georgia Lane Johnston. Anne Kumari Joseph. Alison Kerr. Sarah Kate Lasala. Catherine Louise Lake. Annie Bridget Lewis. Christy Marie Martin. Bianca Jane May. Hayley Elizabeth Yvonne May. Natasha Louise Mills. Emily Ann Mitchell. Alice Margaret Rose Maloney. Kirsty L. Muller. Melissa Ann Neisler. Cecilia Newen. Brianna Ivy Kate O'Brien. Caitlin Erin Ogilvie. Lisa Kate O'Loughlin. Caitlin Ann O'Meara. Jessica Lee Para. Matthew Parkinson. Brooke Penner. Cameron Edward Pickering. Fiona Elizabeth Pyle. Linda Julian Provis. Chiara Siobhan Redford. Rebecca Danielle Richardson. Magella Marie Ritchie. Raymond Barry Rogers. Michaela Cecilia Rotoloni. Lauren Jane Runcie. Cherie Ann Ryan. Karen Lee Sala. Adriana Elaine Schuster. Megan Cherie Seesink. Ashley Michelle Shinney. Katrina Ruth Seabright. Bronwyn Sikavista. John J. Simpson. Michelle Elizabeth Skinner. Alex Pritchard. Stacey Margaret Slack. Glenn John Smith. Joanna Claire Spalitis. Amanda Lee Timms. Amy Elise Trevelcock. Jessica Rachel Turner. Christopher Michael Ure. Andrew Raymond Watt. Erin Therese Webster. Anne-Marie Westby. Kayla White. Stephanie Louise Whitehead. Lynn Whitworth. Tegan Kim Woodbridge. Zachary Michael Woodward. Karen Rosemary Wright. For the award of Bachelor of Education Primary Indigenous Studies, Brady John Gary Cooper. Bindi Jane Macbeth. Christine Elizabeth Mailman. Glenys Joan Margeri. Shanoa Nadine Rogers. For the award of Bachelor of Social Science, Matthew John Baker. Amy Louise Butters. Hannah Doyle. Cassandra Marie Ives. Hannah Elise Longhurst. Lara Watkinson. For the award of Bachelor of Teaching, Bachelor of Arts, Peter Ford Kasadagapi. Matthew Aaron Glasson. Alexandra Elizabeth Hetherington. Tamara Jane Johnston. Paige Jennifer McDonald. Connor James Nesbitt. Benita Salvatore. Michael James Sinden. Nicole Mia Tompkinson. For the award of Associate Degree in Indigenous Education, Cynthia Sarah Tom. For the award of Associate Degree in Social Science, Aged Care, Cara Miller. Rose Siriani. Margaret Thelma Smith. For the award of Associate Degree in Social Science, Residential Care, Rebecca Donna Wood. In 2013, the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, with the support of Centrecare and Mission Australia, provided an opportunity for candidates to undertake a short course of study in undergraduate units. As Executive Dean of the Faculty of Education and Arts, I am pleased to award these students who have completed such studies with the appropriate certificate. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the Certificate in Liberal Studies, Nicholas Stephen George Bryson.
Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Master of Business Administration Executive, Michael Allen Gardner. Andrew Richard McCallum. Jeremy Lawrence Pettit. Rebecca Anna Ryan DeCuna. For the award of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Commerce, Rachel Grace McFarlane. For the award of Bachelor of Business, Michelle Lee. Samuel James Smythe. For the award of Bachelor of Commerce, Sarah Bartel. Rebecca Lee Batten. Ashley Brown. Chelsea Evans. Christy Michelle Jones. Hayley Louise McDonald. Gillian Gemma McKendry. Rami Scotto d'Apollonia. Jennifer Shrestha. Peter Turner. Alana Luella Fenta. For the award of Bachelor of Human Resource Management, Emma Louise Crane. Ella Rose Russell. Sade Marie von Oplen. For the award of Diploma in Commerce, Razana Reza Usman. Pro-Chancellor, I now ask you to admit to the awards for which they are qualified those candidates whose names are listed in the program but who are unable to be present.
By the authority as Pro-Chancellor vested in me by the Senate of the University, I hereby admit the awards for which they are qualified those candidates whose names are listed in the program but who are absent from this ceremony. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, but particularly graduates, it's my pleasure just to make a few words of congratulations to the new graduates. On behalf of the university, I'd like to offer my sincere congratulations to you, the newest, freshest graduates of Australian Catholic University. I congratulate also those who have cared for you and supported and nourished you, be they your parents, guardians, other friends and families, and of course your teachers here at Macaulay and Bangor. Over the course of the year, I have the privilege to visit the campuses of the ACU. I am struck by the warmth and care which teachers at all our campuses have for their students. Indeed, in my view, it is a defining quality of our university. You have achieved success after 3, 4, or sometimes more years of hard work. No doubt sometimes you felt far from successful. There may have been 1 or 2 failures along the way, but eventually you succeeded. You're here tonight, and that's a cause for rejoicing. What does it all mean? I think the most important thing is that it fits you, as a graduate, into the family of Australian Catholic University. You should be proud of this, because as a graduate of Australian Catholic University, you have inherited a tradition of learning and study and search for truth, which goes back some 800 years or so to the beginning of university education as we know it today. You are also now a graduate of the largest Catholic university in the English-speaking world, with a student cohort in excess of 25,000. Moreover, the Australian Catholic University is an important part of the Australian higher education landscape and an absolutely vital part of the Church's ministry in the training of teachers, health and business professionals, as well as pursuing research of world-class quality. We might ask how your success today will nourish and guide you. Whilst the university has laboured to assist you to achieve professional skills to establish your career, the university believes that the learning experience of these recent years goes way beyond the academic. It goes to the mature person you have now become, not just professionally competent, but passionate about using your skills for the benefit of others and within the moral and religious framework in which it has been conducted. Indeed, surely this outcome is at least important as your academic success. So what are the ideals that the university would hope you would take into the world beyond university? Let's put them in 3 simple propositions. The first is that you continue to seek the truth in everything you do. Secondly, always be fair in your dealings with others. And finally, work for the good of others, whether in your professional life or in your life beyond the world of work, in your families, and in the many opportunities for helping others which will come your way. Being successful has many facets. Career success is only a part. Finally, be passionate in what you do. Don't be disheartened. The searching for and finding the life path about which you can become passionate takes time and perseverance. Remember that the ups and downs which you have experienced in your undergraduate years will continue, but your continuing success will be in dealing with them with enthusiasm, with fortitude, and the clear conviction that by adhering to the ideals learned in these precious undergraduate years, you will contribute to building a better and particularly a fairer world. Good fortune, God's never-failing love be with you. Australian Catholic University is richer for you having been here. Thank you. I now invite Matea Therese Carberry Ling to deliver a vote of thanks on behalf of the graduates.
Pro-Chancellor, Professor Margot Hillel,
Associate Vice-Chancellor Brisbane, Professor Jim Nyland, distinguished guests, fellow graduates, ladies and gentlemen. As our ceremony comes to its conclusion, I have the honour and privilege to express on behalf of all ACU graduates our deepest appreciation. Firstly, we would like to extend our most sincere appreciation to Australian Catholic University and its staff. It is through this university and its people that we have been given this opportunity to earn our qualifications. ACU, through its Catholic values and commitment to provide excellence in higher education, has enhanced our learning experience and has made us feel like much more than just a student number, but more so a valued member of its community of learners. Every student that has embarked on studies at ACU has a unique story and university journey. As a student body, we are diversified by our gender, age, culture, background, and beliefs. And despite our differences, ACU strives to live out its mission by treating us all with dignity, equity, and respect. For me, being a wife and a mother of two, I appreciated the flexibility and the care that the university afforded me. ACU is really about making learning accessible to all students. It is through this inclusive ethos that I was able to accomplish beyond my wildest dreams. This evening gives us an opportunity to reflect back on our university days. I'd invite you all to think back to that momentous first day at uni. How did you feel? What were you thinking? I remember walking nervously into the classroom, awkwardly finding an empty seat next to strangers, with feelings of anticipation and uncertainty all tied up in one big knot. My main concern, as I'm sure it was for you too, was, am I going to make it? Well, as we sit here today, next to our friends, no longer strangers, we can say with certainty, we made it. Today, my fellow graduates, not only are we celebrating receiving our degrees, but also our lecturers, tutors, family members and friends, because without them, we would not be here today. To our lecturers, tutors and course coordinators, we thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge, your dedication and encouragement. Your passion is infectious and inspiring. For most of us, you are more than just teachers. You personify the university's mission by being guiding forces and pillars of support when at times we thought things were impossible. We are blessed to have had you inspire us and open our minds to new ways of thinking and seeing. Thank you. To our parents, husbands, wives, children and extended family, words are not enough to thank you for your hard work, sacrifice and unconditional love and support during our years of study. You've put up with us during exam blocks and assignment due dates. You've looked after us, our children, done our laundry, proofread our essays and encouraged us to keep going. I personally want to thank my husband, who encouraged me to go to uni in the first place, especially when I didn't think I was smart enough. Thank you for believing in me. And finally, to our friends and fellow graduates, we thank you for always being there for us when we need you. You are a friendly face, a shoulder to cry on, a helping hand and an ear to lend. Together, we've celebrated passes, birthdays, weddings, babies, and now our graduation. In preparation for this speech, I asked a group of my uni friends what it was that they loved about going to uni. The overwhelming response was the fact that we had each other. So for that, I thank you. Together, all of you have put into our hands a valuable qualification that will enable us to open the door to a better opportunity for now and into the future. Winston Churchill once quoted this proverb, "I ask not for a lighter burden, but for broader shoulders. This quote resonated with me as I feel that the gift of knowledge that we achieve through hard work at ACU has irrevocably broadened our shoulders and our minds to confidently face new challenges of the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I would like to wish my fellow graduates all the best for their future endeavours. May that be entering into the professional working world, travelling, or embarking on postgraduate studies. If there's one lesson that I've learnt during my studies at ACU, is that learning is lifelong. So although we celebrate the closing of this chapter of our lives, we begin to write the next chapter of our journey, a little bit wiser and with broader shoulders. Once again, congratulations to all graduates. Please give yourselves a round of applause.
The University Chaplain will now give us all a blessing.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad and ask for His blessing. May the peace of the Christ rule in your hearts. May the work you have begun and that is recognized here today enable you to contribute to the well-being of the people entrusted to your care. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the choir comes onto the stage, that completes the formal part of this graduation ceremony at Australian Catholic University. On behalf of the Pro-Chancellor, I invite you to join the members of the University for refreshments on the mezzanine level. The academic procession, which will be led by the Pro-Chancellor and joined by the graduates, will now retire. Please stand and remain standing until the procession has left. You may then follow and make your way out of the hall.